Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And the honor to his Elsa, Jake.
gives you sports betting tips. I like it. You gotta reach it out on that one. I'm Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. You can follow my friend Jake on Twitter at myfriend_Jake. Today is Thursday, February 24th, 2022. This episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I've built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of today's games not covered in this episode, is available in the Google Sheet linked in the show's description. A picks are the ones I love, B picks are the ones I like, and C picks are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say the model we profit from each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, the model continues to roll this week. Yesterday, up 16 and a half units. We're up 24 units on the week for all model. Yeah, it's huge. My picks on this podcast yesterday, I was excited about this. 2 pushes, which seems impossible, but 8, 2, and 2 puts me at 17, 13, and 3 for the week. You're hanging at 500 for the week, so not too bad for yourself. What's the one thing we should know before we get started?
Man, watching as we get towards the end of the regular season and even in the conference tournament, like a lot of these big-time freshmen, they haven't played this level of competition this long, so their legs start to go. Like if you just want to run through the last night, you had Banchero went 2 of 13, A.J. Griffin 4 of 11, Jabari Smith 4 of 12, Blake Wesley from Notre Dame 3 of 13. They're just not used to this level of play for this long at this point, so they need a little bit of a break. So that's why you see a lot of these bigger teams that depend on those guys fade a little bit, like Auburn and Duke are they're still winning games, but they're not pushing way over anymore. So you need to kind of watch for that because they could very easily lose their legs, and then all of a sudden the star team is dropping games they shouldn't.
Yeah, good insight there. Before we get to today's slate, a reminder, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube, subscribe, or follow if you aren't yet. We appreciate both of those things, and they help us out greatly. Share with a friend. If you know others in the game, drop a comment on Twitter or YouTube. We love those. We try to respond to as many as we can. Jake, our game breakdowns here. We've got 5 more for you again today. Yesterday, we both went 2, 2, and 1 in this segment. A bunch of games yesterday right around the number. So we put up on the screen Texas at 9 was the official number we played. That turned out to be a push. Jake, I know you had locked in on BetStamp. You had locked in 8.5, so that was a win for you. And then we put up 6.5 for that Colorado State Wyoming game on the screen. That was the number at the time of recording, and so that turned out to be a win for you. But you had locked in 6. It was a push. I mean, there were a lot of games like that yesterday that were just right around that number, a higher percentage than usual. I feel like, depending on when you got your bet in.
Yeah, the books got enough information right now. They pegging those lines pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. It always gets tighter and tighter as the season goes along. And so tonight we've got, again, 5 games for you, but all of them are later in the day. I've got some early games for you in the buzzer beaters segment, the A picks, but for the game breakdowns, they're all late ones. We're going to start off at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Belmont at Murray State. Murray is a 3-point favorite with a total of 145. I'm going over 145 as a B pick. The model thinks it should be 148. Neither has really been an over team, but this kind of reminds me a little bit of that Florida-Arkansas game from a few days ago. A little bit higher of a total, but one of those where, neither team's been over, but yet that doesn't mean that the number is just completely, not just missing. I think with these two teams specifically, my take on it is that they don't tend to face offenses as good as each other in that conference. They tend to face very weak offenses. They can really suffocate these teams. Neither defense is great. They're both okay. But an okay defense can really suffocate a bad offense. And so both these teams constantly have games where they're only allowing 45 points or 52 points or some number like that. It's not because they really play slow. Belmont wants to play pretty fast. Mm-hmm. So I think this one's going to have a lot more points, especially when they actually get up and down playing against a team that can score, unlike the majority of their games. So I'm going over 145. Jake, my question for you, as always, Murray, a 3-point home favorite, pegs the teams about equal. Can Murray win, and can they cover that short number of 3?
Yeah, I really do think they can. They won the first one by 22, and that was on the road. So I don't see 19-point swing when they come home. So I think they get it done. Also, Murray, this kind of goes against the point you're making with their defense. They're one of the 3 teams that are in the top 15 in both offense and defensive efficiency, and that's the other 2 are Arizona and Gonzaga. So that is really impressive from a team like you said that's like doesn't run into a lot of hard competition and stuff. So they're like when it's adjusted for opponents and things, they're still way up there. Um, and this Murray State team is just very very good. They shoot the ball well. They're obviously super efficient on offense. They don't give the ball away unnecessarily. In their defense, they force people to shoot threes because of how they play defense, and then they hold them to under 30% from three. So it's a very tough team to beat. And I look for them to make some noise, make a run in March. I really like this team a lot. And Belmont, this is their last chance for a quad one win, really, unless they see Murray again in the OVC tournament. So I think they've got to have this one to even stand a chance to make the tournament. If they don't have this one, then they have to win the OVC. There's no way. So it should be what I think is probably the game of the night, just because of how much is on the line, and you've got two really really good teams going at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It should be a great game, and like I said, Belmont has to have this one. If they lose this one, they have to win the tournament. Period. If they get this one, maybe you make an argument that if the championship game goes overtime, and maybe Belmont sneaks in there, it would be really fun to get both these teams in. So I think Murray State. It sounds like it's probably in either way, barring a collapse. So at least come conference tournament time, I'll be pulling for Belmont because I want to see what both these teams can do against different competition. You mentioned the efficiency. It's interesting. Ken Palm has their efficiency at barely above average. And you talked about your numbers. It just goes to it's a good time to point out, depending on which site you look at and what you're how the efficiency is defined, you can see some slightly different metrics, and that's why we all come up with slightly different numbers. And so it's just kind of an interesting take there. It's not quite as simple and straightforward, and it does cause complications, but it is still better, even if the metrics disagree, to use those type of efficiency metrics wherever your favorite one is, or look at multiple ones rather than just look at points per game. Because unlike points per game, while the numbers don't disagree, every site has the same points per game. It doesn't control for opponent and things of that nature, pace. And so the efficiency metrics, while it's sometimes complicated and sometimes disagreeing, are still a better look. So it's just kind of an interesting discussion there. Same time slot, Ohio State at Illinois, 19 Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Illinois is a 6-point favorite. The model thinks that Illinois should only be a 4-point favorite. That makes this an A pick for me on Ohio State. I think it's too many points in a who knows what's going to happen type game. Jake, you're on Illinois. This is the rubber match. Now, this is 3 of our 4 episodes this week. I have had an A pick opposite of you. And I don't think either of us feels like we deserve to win the one that we won. We split, and the Indiana one earlier in the week, and then that LSU Kentucky one last night. LSU played great in the first half, and so if you're with me on LSU, that first half you felt great, but that second half you can't just ignore that, and it was abysmal. Kentucky gets out 15 with 2 minutes to go, and you're chalking that up to a loss, and then LSU comes back. So we're split on these so far. This is the rubber match to see who takes the crown this week in the A picks for the professor versus you, Jake. Tell the people why Illinois can cover 6 points.
With Illinois, I think it has a lot to do with being at home. Obviously, that home court is big, and there's not really a good matchup for Kofi out there in the world. And I think that's going to get Zed Key and Young in foul trouble and force Liddell to be down there towards the end of the game. And I think that's where they start to pull away, because as good as Liddell is, he's just not like a back to the bucket strong guy. He's a more athletic, quick guy, and that's going to be really the key matchup to watch, to see what Ohio State does with Kofi and what Illinois does with Liddell, because Liddell's tall enough that Illinois really doesn't have somebody as tall as him and as athletic as him, especially with Verdonk out. He was kind of like that kind of in-between guy for him that I thought was going to play quite a bit, but he picked up a concussion in the last game, I think is what I saw, and he was questionable for the night. So even if he does play, nowhere near 100%, and even him at 100% is not a really good matchup for Liddell. Right. But I think it's going to come down to turnovers, who's turning the ball over, and the home court advantage, and Illinois shoots so much better at home. And I think that's where you're going to get the trouble, is Kofi being able go inside out, and Illinois hits a few more threes than Ohio State does this time around.
Yeah, it's like we talked about last night with the LSU Kentucky game. The key was, can LSU avoid those stretches where they go scoreless? They ended the first half on about a 4.5-minute scoreless run. They had some spurts in the second half where they didn't score very many, and that almost cost them. It took that crazy ending for it not to. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The key to this game, we know that Kofi is going to get his. Ohio State is not going to be able to stop him, short of getting in foul trouble like that. But the question is, can Liddell get his? And that's the one where, what's Illinois going to do? How are they going to try to manage him switching off, so that when he gets lower, inside it's on Kofi, but can they switch to the guard when it's outside to kind of balance that? It's very difficult to do. If Illinois can stop him, they're going to have an easy way to cover this. If they can't, though, I think Ohio State is able to keep it close, potentially win, and get the cover. So that's kind of the matchup to watch there. I will give you this, listener, if you hear that and you see us disagreeing and not know what to do with it, I will say that over is probably a good look as well. If you noticed in the sheet last night, I put that total in there. It said over. So hopefully last night you got a number under that 140.5 number that it sits today. You've got to get over 139.5, something like that, as the number keeps climbing. I still think I'd take over 140.5 if it was me, but as that number continues to climb, it's going to get a little bit tougher to be successful there. So that's kind of just an extra look there in case you hear Jake and I disagreeing and don't know what to do with it. The over is a solid look, I think, in that one. Just half an hour after that, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, UCLA is a 3-point road favorite at an Oregon team that, frankly, I just do not know what to expect from. I think you saw them Saturday against Arizona, and the same thing. They come out, guns a-blazing and early on, hang in there with Arizona all game, have a chance to win at the end, but then they have times where they look completely useless as well. I don't know what to make of them. I'm going to ignore the side on this one. I'm going to take a total. I'm going to go all over 138.5. The model thinks it should be 140.5. The model is 9-6 combined on over edges between these two teams. I think Oregon's going to have a hard time slowing UCLA down. I don't know how much Oregon's going to score, but I think UCLA will be able to get enough points to get us over. Then the question is just, does Oregon keep up with them? So, Jake, that's what I'm going to pose to you. Can UCLA win by more than 3 on the road here?
This is probably my least confident pick of the day. I'm going with UCLA. Little bit of mix of a revenge for losing by 3 at home in overtime. Both these teams are just I can't figure them out. At times this year I thought Oregon was going to make a run, and then they just drop. And same thing with UCLA. And then with Tiger Campbell possibly being out, it makes it real tough to make a call here. But like I said, I'm going with UCLA because that defense they have is very, very good. They're top 10 in almost every metric that matters. And they force around 14-ish turnovers a game. And I think that's going to be the difference, and especially with Oregon's terrible free throw shooting, hitting below 70%. I think that really cuts into it, and UCLA wins probably under 10, but I'm not super confident in this one.
Yeah, and you talked about those turnovers. That's going to get UCLA some quick points, leading to that overworking really well. I think the question is just, can Oregon do like they did against Arizona? Arizona's also got a really good defense, and can they score? It's tough to say exactly how that will play out given the inconsistency for both teams, which takes us to our late game of the night, 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. Arizona, an 11-point road favorite at Utah with a total of 150. It's an A pick for me on Arizona at -11. It's an A pick simply because this morning we locked it in. It's 11 -105. So in case you're concerned about things like that, 11 -110 would fall just below my threshold for an A pick. Obviously, if you can get down at 10.5 or 10 later in the day, that would also be an A pick. The model thinks 12.5, 13 is a more appropriate number. I haven't seen Utah play, I'm not sure at all this year, so I can't really give any analysis on that. All I can say is Arizona is really good, both on the offensive and the defensive end. Bottom line, Arizona should win. It's more likely they win by a lot than a little. I think it's that simple. Doesn't mean they won't just win by 7. Doesn't mean they won't just win by 4. But I see a lot more scenarios where they win by 15, 17, 20 than scenarios where they only win by 8. What's your take?
Yeah, I don't know how this isn't a blowout tonight. I think Arizona is just going to run them out of their own building, especially with Utah's leading scorer being questionable for tonight. And I don't think he played last game with Carlson. Brendan Carlson's his name. But Utah's just not very good anywhere. And so I really I don't understand. I thought this line would be closer to like that 13-14 number, and then I'd start questioning it. But at 11, I think that's a steal, and I think Arizona just runs them out of the building.
Yep, absolutely. I tend to lean a little bit more dog heavy than not. As I try to calibrate my numbers, I try to be about 55-45 on dogs. There's usually a little bit more value there. So I'm like you. I expect this to be 13-14 at this number. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think Arizona is the side you want to look to. Which takes us to kind of a new segment rather than talk me out of. Jake, you've been so good in these segments. I'm not going to have you try to talk me in or out of anything. I'm just going to call it solo Jake. I'm just going to let you have the floor. I'm not going to say anything. We're going to give the people what they want. This is a game that I don't have a great edge on. So I'm just going to tee it up for you. Gonzaga on the road at San Francisco is a 10-point road favorite. What you got for us?
Yeah, well, this is kind of the same kind of scenario with Arizona. I'm not very sure where this line came from. That's putting in a lot of respect to San Francisco's defense that I don't know is truly earned. And I know they're a good 3-point shooting team and a good jump shooting team, but they really haven't run into a team like Gonzaga before, who's also 3-1 as a road favorite. I mean, they don't get very they're on the road quite a bit as a favorite, so they do fairly well. They rank both second in offense and defensive efficiency with the numbers I look at. And they also rank second in effective field goal percentage, and in the top 20 in 3-point percentage. So they're just really good all around. But that doesn't really need to be said. You've also got Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme that's just an incredible 1-2 punch. And I really don't know where this game gets under 10 at. I mean, San Francisco would have to play out of their mind, hit everything, be really good on defense, and then somehow also slow down Chet Holmgren and Timme, who can just stretch the floor on you at any point. So I really just don't understand the respect for San Francisco here. So I think Gonzaga runs them out of their own building again.
All right. There you go. And then that takes us to our overtime A plays 2-0-1 yesterday. The push being Washington State. And we talked about this in the comment section. I don't know if any of y'all scrolled through that. It's an interesting case, closing line value just not having the same meaning it's had in years past. And I think this game last night was a perfect indication. The game closed, I think, closer to 10. And so if you laid 8.5, you got great closing line value and still didn't win. And so to me, the lesson isn't necessarily so much try to get great closing line value. Just try to get the best of the number, right? So keep track of when you're betting. You always want to shop around and get better numbers because better numbers are going to lead to better results. But it doesn't quite necessarily mean values equals win, because on that one you needed to get the perfect number. It did hang around there for a long time, but you need to get that number just to eke away with the push there. So just something interesting there to think about. The other two A picks in this segment one, that puts me 5-3-1 on the week, and I've got 5 of them for you today. We're going to start off with 6 p.m. Central, Middle Tennessee State -6.5 versus Marshall. I'm 6-1 on B plays of Middle Tennessee State. This is the first A pick on them, and 4-2 on fades of Marshall. I think at 6.5, this is a great number. At 7, I still think it's solid. So I think you got some good value here. Middle Tennessee State either blows them out or can get there with fouls. Also at 6 p.m. Central, Western Illinois -12 versus Omaha. Western Illinois hasn't been great to us, but we are 4-2 on A fades of Omaha. It should be a high-scoring game, which is going to make it easier for this game to get out of hand rather than one with a lower total. I noticed the total's in the 155 range. That should help us get over that number of 12. 6 p.m. also Central Time, Florida International +8 at Charlotte. I think that's just too many points. Got some value there. Similar situation out west, late game, 9 p.m. Central. UC San Diego is +9 at Long Beach State. I have nothing compelling to say about these teams other than I'm just trusting the process. And my A+ play of the day, we are 14-12-1 on these. 6:30 Central Time. One of my alma maters, Sam Houston State +7 at SFA. It's a rivalry game. It's too many points, Jake. We talked a lot about Sam Houston State's crappy free throw shooting mattering less at +7 than it does -7, right? I hate laying a bigger number with the team that can't shoot free throws because they cannot put it away. Being +7, probably less of a big deal because they won't be the one shooting free throws at the end. Jake, you got one thing to say about any of those?
Yeah, the MTSU has been the best cover team in the nation for the last couple weeks. We mentioned it last time we had them. So just keep riding that train until it gives us a reason to get off.
All right. And that will turn it to you for your buzzer beaters.
I actually really between the games we have going, like in all your A picks and everything, I really don't have any ones that I can add anything to. I agree
Okay.
with the vast majority of the ones you have, so I don't want to just force one out there.
All right. Hey,
Especially with the way they're going this week, maybe forcing them is not the way to go today.
absolutely, absolutely. You have to respect that. All right, so I will give you my buzzer beaters. 4-0 yesterday was a fantastic day. Puts me 6-3 on the week, up about 10 units here in our last 10 days. I'm going to go back to when I started up yesterday. My fave, my favorite, a 6 p.m. Central start, early local time there. I'm going Northern Illinois -3.5 versus Idaho State. Northern Arizona is bad, but Idaho State is worse. So I think Northern Arizona wins that one. Every dog has its day version 2.0. We got our win here yesterday. I'm going to go Maryland +6.5 at Indiana, 3-0 on ARB plays of Maryland. And this is a shameless reminder of to everyone how Indiana sucked on Monday. So I just had to get that back in there. The best B side, though, my favorite B pick of all, 15-11 in the segment, 5:30 Central Time. William and Mary +9 at Northeastern. We are 7-1 on ARB fades of Northeastern. The list of teams Northeastern should be a 9-point favorite over is really short. It's not very many teams. Look, if William can't get it done, Mary does, right?
It's the only way it works, right?
That's the only way it works. All right, over of the day. So I got two totals of the day. I'm going to give you an over the day and an under of the day. I'm going to give you over 6 p.m. Mount St. Mary's at Sacred Heart. I'm going to go over 133.5. The model is 11-6, and Mount St. Mary's over edges. They want to slow it down, but not as much as the totals are showing. Sacred Heart has an awful defense. We're 8-4 at Sacred Heart over edges. And I've even projected them under their actual results. I think there's a lot of ways that we can get over a low number. And then my last one for you here, the under of the day. We got here to the window yesterday. I'm going 7:30 Central under 123.5 in Morehead State at Eastern Illinois. This one will be an ugly one. Eastern Illinois plays slow. They have the second worst offense according to Ken Palm. I don't see how they get to 50 in this one. Morehead has no incentive to push past 70. They play just as slow. They have a better defense than offense. It's a low number, but this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. As I often remind people, you don't have to watch them to make the monies on them, people. And I don't think you want to watch that one at all.
No, that was Moorhead. They're just going to feed Broom, I think he's in top 5 in the nation in double doubles. They're just going to take their time working around, feed him. So the under is probably a really good play there.
All right, and that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder, check out that Google Sheet for picks and totals on all of today's games not covered in this episode. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button. We'll get you a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season. Usually a live Q&A episode on Saturday mornings. I tweeted about this yesterday. Jake has a scheduling conflict, so Saturday we're going to run our normal episode. It will drop around that same time, and then we will both be monitoring the comments. So if you want to ask about some games, we'll do our best to kind of interact there and give you the best experience we can. And then we'll be back the next Saturday with another live show. We'll see you tomorrow. We're bringing back Cousin Jared for that episode. Until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.